Welcome to the Hardwood Hawgs Podcast. I'm your host, Mason Choate, joined, as always, by Jackson Collier, JC Hoops. You know him on Twitter. He's at Jackson Collier. He's your favorite Razorback basketball guy. And this Razorback basketball team has won 5 straight SEC games, a huge 15-point win in Rupp Arena against Kentucky. You can say what you want. You can say this Kentucky team's down. John Calipari's checked out. Severe Wheeler didn't play. It's still Kentucky. They're still good. They still have the reigning National Player of the Year, and Arkansas dominated them. Just completely dominated them. And that's without two of Arkansas's best players. And, that's been the story of the season. But now it's like, now that you're winning these games, it's even more of a big deal. And so we have a lot to talk about. Arkansas's moved up in rankings across several different services. It seems like they've moved off the bubble for now, especially with the win at Kentucky, a quad 1 road win. Big time for net rankings. So we're going to talk about all of that. It's going to be a fun episode. Everybody's back to basketball. That's what it is. Is like, people checked out. It's just like, I guess there's like seasons, how there's like fall, summer, winter, spring, like seasons in our world. There's seasons with Eric Musselman, and there's like, it's just like January and then February, because it's just January with Eric Musselman. It's tough. It's been tough, like historically, since he's been at Arkansas. And in February, he has one loss over the past 2 or 3 seasons. So Jackson, this team, the win against Kentucky, just give us your overall thoughts, man.
First of all, that game, that's the most complete game that Arkansas has played all season. Both sides of the ball, 40 minutes, the whole shebang. That was fantastic basketball from start to finish. Last night was also a game that really put the country on notice and reminded people across the country that Eric Musselman is one of the top coaches in all of college basketball. Feel like, people were kind of thinking, oh, Arkansas is down this year. Maybe Musselman didn't get his guys right. Obviously, the 2 injuries, really big impact. He had to completely change the entire build of this roster, the identity of this roster right before conference play started. And that is one of the more difficult things you can do. And we're seeing really just the benefits of having such a fantastic coach for this program. Started out conference play 1-5. It was a rough stretch, and some losses that they would like to have back. The game at LSU, game at Missouri, game at Vanderbilt, would all love to have those back. But now this team is gelling. The roles are more finely tuned, finally carved out, and you saw that last night. And you saw that when you see the Mitchell twins playing 29 and 26 minutes together and limiting Oscar Tshiebwe to 7 points and 7 rebounds. The physicality that the Twins brought last night, incredible. That's exactly what they needed last year against Duke. Musselman went out and he landed the Twins, landed Trevin Brazile, landed Graham, really bolstered the front court, and the Twins are paying off in dividends come conference play. The game plan was perfect. They kept running either single high or double ball screens and just telling AB and Devo, go get one. And they did. Same with Ricky Council. They were getting to the free throw line. They finally hit free throws. They shot a very high percent. I think they were 20 of 24 from the free throw line last night. They forced turnovers. They forced Kentucky into 15 turnovers, 10 steals. Just a really, really good basketball game. I thought the defensive effort was fantastic. Devo had some really nice steals where he would come over kind of trailing a guy coming off a screen and stick his arm in there and get the ball real quick. I loved the half-court zone trap coming out of halftime. I don't think Kentucky expected that at all. I think that really caught them off guard. They kind of adjusted the ball screen action on defense where, instead of staying straight man and going 1-and-1 off the screen, they would jump the ball handler and they kind of give a half court trap and then, recover back to their man. But they really threw some different looks at Kentucky. They were really scrambling, it seemed like Kentucky was. Just an excellent ball game, excellent game plan. The execution from the players was just unmatched. Eric Musselman will prep better than any coach in the country. He will game plan better than any coach in the country. And then when his players are executing at that high of a level, it's really tough to stop. And we saw that last night.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the defensive effort. Makhel Mitchell, once again, just incredible. There was that one sequence where he blocked Oscar Tshiebwe back to back. I mean, block, Tshiebwe goes back up, block. Makhel Mitchell is playing on a different level, and we'll talk about him, but I want to talk about the offensive effort from Arkansas. They tied an SEC program record for field goal percentage in a game, 62.7. They shot 72% from the field in the second half. I mean, there I don't think a team in America was going to beat Arkansas on Tuesday night. I mean, Arkansas would have you put any team out there, Purdue, Houston, whoever you want, Arkansas probably. I mean, when you shoot 72% from the field in the second half, it's hard to lose. You mentioned the half court trap to start the second half. I listened to John Calipari's press conference, which was like 5 minutes, by the way. I mean, it was just people were saying he's checked out, and he was like, I was extremely disappointed in that because, first of all, how do you let that happen? Like, how do you let that happen like 3 times? And then also, he had to call a timeout. Like that was just an awful, awful sequence for Kentucky. And so this Arkansas team, the offense was the big story to me because you know that this team has been doing really well defensively. Opponents were averaging like 58 points per game over the past 5, I think. And then you look at Arkansas's offense, and that's been, can this team score? That was a big story like a month ago. This team can't score. Well, they could score on Tuesday night against Kentucky, a good Kentucky team. And it's a big deal to win that game because you look at the schedule moving forward at Texas A&M, at Alabama, at Tennessee. Like it's a tough schedule down the stretch. So to get a win in Rupp Arena is huge for, net ranking purposes, bracketology purposes. Jackson, you think Arkansas is like an 8 or 9 seed right now? I think that's what you said over on the trough at HawgBeat.com.
Yeah, so I'm working on compiling my bracket again for doing my JC Hoops bracketology for the third year in a row. And right now, with the formulas and I use and the data and everything coming in, I think I have Arkansas on the 8-9 line right now. Hopefully that first official bracket will come out this weekend, so stay posted for that. But right now, it's looking around the 8-9 line. The metrics have always been pretty solid. The issue has been, the actual resume, the body of work. That's your quadrant wins. That's your road wins. That's the actual victory. So while Arkansas is playing really good basketball and their metrics might have been favorable, like they're really high, Ken Palm really hot because of their defensive efficiency. They played a tough schedule early in the year, and they had those early good wins. They haven't really maintained that, at least up until this point, up until this stretch. So finally getting, now have 2 road wins. You went on the road to Kentucky. That's your second quad 1 win. And that resume number is starting to come up a little bit. And that's really helping them move up now. So I think they're squarely off the bubble for now. Bracketology is a game by game, week by week thing, though. You can't just say, oh, they're off the bubble for now. Still got to win the games that are in front of them. Mississippi State next, at Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia, and then your final 3. And that's at Alabama, at Tennessee, and Kentucky at home. I came into, last week saying, Arkansas had to beat A&M at home. They had to beat South Carolina, and then splitting either on the road against Kentucky or on the road against Texas A&M would be huge. Well, they've already split it, and now they have a chance to sweep. I still think a 5-6 seed, depending on how Arkansas finishes and other teams do, I think a 5 or 6 seed is possible. That would require a lot more winning, but I think that's even within the realm of possibility with how well they've been playing.
Yeah, we'll get into a little bit more metrics where Arkansas sits on a couple different services here in a little bit, but I want to wrap up the Kentucky, recap with a couple notes, and a lot of this is courtesy of HawgStats.com. If you're not following HawgStats on Twitter, you need to follow them because, he tweets out a ton of great nuggets and information during games, and I use it for my stories a lot. He's just a great resource. He's very trustworthy, and so follow him on Twitter. But so Arkansas, you look at guys, Makhel Mitchell, 15 points, 5 blocks. That was big time. Anthony Black, 19 points, 5 assists. How many rebounds do you have? 4 rebounds. So Anthony Black, huge game. Ricky Council, 20 points with a back issue. Devontae Davis, 15 points, 7 assists. I believe that was a career high. Jordan Walsh, 13 points, didn't miss a single shot. Jordan Walsh did not miss a single shot in the game. This team is on a roll. Devo Davis said he doesn't think they've hit their peak yet. And so and another crazy thing is that they're playing with injuries. Anthony Black, Eric Musselman said he's dealing with like 3 or 4 things. We knew he had the knee contusion that he suffered against Baylor. Jalen Graham playing through an Achilles. Makhel Mitchell still playing through the ankle issue. Ricky Council has a back issue. Eric Musselman said during one of the timeouts, Ricky Council couldn't even sit down. He had to keep standing up. And so these guys are playing through these injuries, and they're beating a team like Kentucky by 15 at Kentucky. So here's a couple notes from the game. Let's see here. Tuesday's win, Eric Musselman's 200th win as a college head coach. Congrats to Eric Musselman. For the first time in program history, Arkansas has beaten Kentucky back-to-back times in Rupp Arena. The 15-point margin of victory is the second largest against Kentucky in program history, second to only a 17-point win margin over Kentucky in 1992. Makhel Mitchell's 5 blocks are the most ever by an Arkansas player against Kentucky. Jordan Walsh, the first Arkansas player to go 100% from the field and at the free throw line with 4+ attempts on each. So he took 4 shots from the field and 4 at the free throw line. Hit all of them. First since TJ Cleveland did so against LSU on February 17th, 2001. I mean, and he wasn't even like the headline of the game. Let's see. Attendance for the game, 19,855. That's the second smallest Rupp Arena crowd ever to see an Arkansas-Kentucky game. Second to only 3,075 during the 2021 COVID-restricted season. Arkansas's 9 3-point attempts were the fewest in an SEC game since it shot 8 against LSU on February 3rd, 2018. So all of that, just an incredible game. When you have that many historical things, like all these like cool stats and facts, you know that it was a great game. So, Jackson, I want to talk about Makhel Mitchell. Makhel Mitchell, I mean, like I said that because I chose Makhel Mitchell as my guy, Makhel is like also a guy because they're a package deal. But this dude is playing on a different level. I know you talked about it on this podcast earlier in the year, but you were right, man. Come SEC play, Makhel Mitchell is going to be a factor, and he's more of a factor. He's like an integral piece to this team right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've been a believer in the Twins ever since Arkansas landed them in the transfer portal. I was on the same boat with you about Mackay very early on. I've really been a big fan of both of them. And from the point of landing them and looking at their film and looking at the types of players they were, immediately what came to mind was Makhel Mitchell is going to be a force in the SEC whenever that time comes. My thought process was always, he's an elite rim protector. He's got great size. He's 6'10", 6'11", and really built. He's strong. He's physical. We saw him not back down against Oscar Tshiebwe. He and Mackay, neither one back down. They were pushing him off the block. They were fronting the post. They were being really physical with him. I think they really made Oscar uncomfortable last night. But then you also look, I think one thing I've mentioned on the podcast before, I think one thing that people opposing players in particular kind of don't understand is how quick Makhel is off his feet. For someone his size, he gets off his feet so quick. That's why he's able to block so many shots. We saw that last night again, especially on that series that sequence where he blocked Tshiebwe back to back. Goes up, blocks, immediately comes back down. He's barely on the floor. He's already back up, and he's able to contest again. It's incredible. And then you add the offensive element to his game too. I said earlier in the year, I think both Mackay and Makhel can be used as offensive weapons. Musselman praised them for their defense all season. Rightfully so. They are fantastic defenders. But you saw last night, Makhel in the pick and roll game was fantastic. I mean, he was rolling hard to the basket. Both the Twins set really, really good hard screens, really opens up driving lanes, and then they roll really strong. And I think when you have guards that are as talented as AB and playing as well as Council and Devo, like that whole trio, that really makes the defense play more honest on that. So they have to contest the drive while also trying to recover on the roll. makes it really difficult. Pick and roll is one of the most effective ways an offense can run against a man-to-man defense. Arkansas hasn't been able to run a pick and roll all that much because they haven't been shooting the ball well from the outside. Well, over the past 8 games, they're shooting 36.3% from three, including over 40% last night when they were 4 for 9. So you add this outside shooting element to the game. Now Arkansas is able to use the pick and roll more effectively. And Makhel Mitchell was a star in that last night. AB, Devo, Council all did a really good job of feeding him on the roll. He did a really good job finishing at the rim. And the Twins combined to shoot 100% from the free throw line. I think that should be noted as well, since both are around 50% free throw shooters. I think they combined for 3 attempts, made all of them. Huge, 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 huge.
Yeah, no, there's one point where Arkansas was 10 for 10 from the free throw line, and then eventually they missed the 11th shot. I can't remember who missed it. Maybe it was Ricky Council. It doesn't matter who missed it, but I wanted to tweet out like breaking Arkansas is 10 for 10 from the free throw line, but that's an immediate jinx. So I didn't do it. Unfortunately, they did miss, but I mean, 20 for 24 from the free throw line. It's a great performance by them. Of course, we talked about the shooting, 62.7% from the field, 72% from the field in the second half. Just an all-around great performance. And there's a lot of work to be done. And that was a good thing from the post-game press conference that you heard, especially from Devo Davis, was, we haven't hit our peak. There's a lot of work to be done. And you want to hear that. You don't want this to be like the big game and then see, some type of decline after this. You want them to keep that up if you're an Arkansas fan. And, the schedule lightens up a little bit. Mississippi State, really good team. They're better than Mississippi State has been. At A&M, that's going to be tough. But then you got Georgia and Florida at home. But that 3-game stretch at the end of the season, man, at Alabama, at Tennessee, and Kentucky at home, that's going to be tough. So let's take a look at where Arkansas stands on a couple different services right now. So their net ranking is 24, which is up 4 spots from Tuesday. They were 28 going into the Kentucky game. Now they're 24. ESPN Basketball Power Index has them at 16. KenPom has them at 21. That's up 6 spots. Torvik has them at 24. Evan Mia, who I really like. If you don't look at Evan Mia, like, he's got a lot of really good stuff. I feel like it's a really underrated analytics site. Has Arkansas at 21. Going into the Kentucky game, Lenardi had Arkansas as an 11 seed, but they were last 4 buys, so they were on the bubble. And then, of course, they're not ranked in the AP top 25. They did receive votes, though. So on the uptick, if they get a win over Mississippi State, I mean, they're probably going to be ranked in the AP top 25 next week, don't you think?
Oh yeah, if they manage to go 2-0 this week against Kentucky and Mississippi State, that'll put them at 6 conference wins in a row, winning 5 of their last 6. The only loss coming on the road at Baylor by 3 points. There's no way that they wouldn't be in the top 25. At least they should be. You never know with AP voters. I think that's something that Arkansas fans are familiar with. Arkansas fans are so funny. When Arkansas was ranked like in the top 15, top 10, whatever, this year, last year, the year before last, they always go and look at who votes where. And like Arkansas would go 2-0 in a week against another ranked opponent, and they'd find AP voters that dropped Arkansas and like blast them on Twitter. So it's just a funny thing Arkansas fans do. But truthfully, you never know what AP voters are going to do, because there's no way all the voters watch all of the games. So they just kind of look at the box score sometimes. But yeah, they should be ranked.
All right, before we move on, I need to tell everybody about Bet Saracen. Bet Saracen, mobile sports gambling app for the Saracen Casino Resort. You can download the app on the Google Play Store or the App Store. Let me tell you about Bet Saracen. We do a story every week for Arkansas basketball games. It's our Bet Saracen lines, odds, player props, specials. We break all of that down. It's an easy guide for those who are interested in betting on the Arkansas game. And we also provide staff picks, and we are hot. And once again, I took Devo Davis points over. It was 13.5. Now, if you bet it, you were sweating at the end because he had 13 points. He had to hit a couple free throws there at the end to get the over. But I mean, it's hit. I think it's hit like 3 or 4 times in a row now. Devo Davis points over. I also added a bonus pick in there. I said you can get Ricky Council over 15.5 points, and it was at plus money. He hit. I mean, he had 20 points. So that's what you get when you go over to HawgBeat.com. Check it out, and then go to Bet Saracen and place your bets. I also give some bonus picks every once in a while on the trough, so make sure you're subscribed to HawgBeat.com. I mean, Bet Saracen, it's a great app. I think I'm going to put a significant amount of money on the Chiefs this weekend, Jackson. What do you think? All right, I mean, let me get your expert analysis on the Super Bowl real quick.
Man, it's tough. It's hard for me to bet against Patrick Mahomes. The Eagles have been really good all year, obviously. So have the Chiefs. I don't know. I'm partial for the Eagles just because Jalen Hurts is my fantasy quarterback this year. I kind of want to go with the Eagles just because of that. But if I was actually putting money on it, I'd probably go with the Chiefs anyway.
Okay. You recovered there. I thought I was going to have to fire you from my staff for saying that. So good for you. All right. Just a couple more things to hit here for the Hardwood Hawgs podcast. I think we got to talk about Nick Smith Jr. again. I don't want to do it, Jackson, but I think we have to. It goes without saying that once again, Jimmy Dykes, I mean, just on the ESPN broadcast, every time he broadcasts, he's like, well, Nick Smith Jr. told me this. Nick Smith Jr., he said he's close or whatever. I don't know. I'm tired of it, but it sounds like he's getting close, and that's all we're going to say because that's what Jimmy Dykes said. And if you think that Jimmy Dykes doesn't have inside information, then maybe you should look into it a little bit more because think about all the money that is funneled into the University of Arkansas from ESPN. Why would they not get that information? That's all I'm going to say about it. Jimmy Dykes does know, and it's frustrating that he knows and we don't, the people who cover the team. Okay, moving on from that. I want to ask you this because I've been asked this. I got to ask this on a radio interview today. If Nick Smith Jr. does come back, do you think that, I mean, like you're adding a top 10 player in the country probably, but do you think that that hurts Arkansas because they have this team chemistry going and then you're going to add someone else into the lineup?
So I can definitely understand the thought process behind that. But I think Nick Smith is somebody who is such a vocal leader, such an emotional presence on the team. It has been when he's been with them. I mean, he's been on the bench. He's still, I don't think he made the trip to Lexington last night, but he's enrolled in classes. He's been with the team. He's all these things. And, he has a great relationship with everybody on the team. And he's an Arkansas kid and all this other stuff. And on top of all that, he's a really good basketball player. So on one hand, you don't want to necessarily hurt the chemistry, but on the other hand, if you have the opportunity to get closer to full strength and add an incredible basketball player back onto the roster, why wouldn't you do that? I don't think he comes in and immediately starts and plays 30, 35 minutes. It might be, hey, let's try to adjust because that's going to throw off a lot of things based on minute allocation, roles, all this sort of stuff. You don't really want to take Devo out of the role he's in right now with how well he's playing. Maybe you take a little bit of the load off Anthony Black and Ricky Council. Maybe you spread some minutes out there. I mean, it's going to be nice, at least for depth, because then you don't have your entire backcourt playing 35 plus minutes or anything crazy like that, especially down the home stretch of the season, with a couple guys being banged up too. So it adds depth. It's an extra body to maybe spell some guys and let them rehab a little bit more, at least not putting as many miles on their legs. And he's also he's still a projected top 10 draft pick. At the end of the day, he is someone who can create for himself offensively. He can create for others offensively. He can still space the floor, which the team has gotten better at, but you can never have enough shooters. I think 8 of the last 10 national champions have had at least one, sometimes even 2 40% three-point shooters. So having multiple guys that can space the floor is never an issue. But yeah, I don't necessarily think it would mess things up completely. I think it's just a matter of Eric Musselman figuring things out once again and getting the roster acclimated to being closer to full strength. And Eric Musselman has proven time and time again that he is the guy who can do that. He can fill spaces. He can fill the roster. He can let guys adjust and gel and all that sort of stuff. And it always works out. Yeah,
no, I'm kind of there with you, yes, the chemistry thing is an argument, but also when you're adding a player at the talent level of Nick Smith Jr., it can only hurt so much. And plus, you think about it like this, he's been around the team. We don't really know how much he's been practicing, if he's been practicing, but it's not like there's not a chemistry there between him and the guys. Like they're friends, they're teammates. So it's just figuring it out on the court in a game with, different lineups. We've seen that different lineups work. What lineups will work if Nick comes back? So that's a lot to think about, but it's really just, simply put, all of that is pure speculation because the only people who know stuff are the Jimmy Dykes of the world. And I'm going to say it again. If you think Jimmy Dykes doesn't know, he does know because the University of Arkansas is feeding that information to him. So that's there were people in my mentions saying that Jimmy Dykes doesn't know anything. And I'm not sitting here and defending him. I'm just saying, like, yes, he does. So what was I going to say? There was something else that I wanted to add. That's frustrating. I forgot. Okay, well, subscribe to HawgBeat.com, HawgBeat.com. We have a lot of great coverage over there. Basketball coverage, baseball coverage. You're not going to find better Arkansas baseball coverage than at HawgBeat.com. Speaking of which, Diamond Hawgs Podcast back on Monday. For those who enjoy it, make sure you visit HawgBeat.com or just type in HawgBeat Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts. Diamond Hawgs Podcast back. We're going to keep the Hardwood Hawgs Podcast. JC, I mean, he's got to make money somehow. So we're going to keep the Hardwood Hawgs Podcast as well. But very excited to have the Diamond Hawgs Podcast back. And before we get out of here, as always, need to remind you about our friends at myperfectfranchise.net. They are a proud sponsor of HawgBeat.com and a lot of other rivals' websites. And it is Andy Ledecky. He is a very experienced business owner and entrepreneur. He's owned multiple franchises and businesses, and he uses his expertise and knowledge to help others find their American dream through a very thorough and free consultation process. All you have to do is call him, and you're going to put your life and career in your own hands. Basically, he's going to take you through a process, figure out which business fits you. It's just you're making an investment into a business, and it's going to pay off because Andy knows what he's doing. So it's myperfectfranchise.net. If you got some extra money laying around, you want to invest in a franchise, this is the way to go. The number is 404-973-9901. Call Andy Ledecky today or visit myperfectfranchise.net. All right. We're back. We're in that time of the year, Jackson, where it's the crossover to baseball season and basketball season, but now basketball is getting exciting, so it's hard to focus on baseball. But you want to focus on baseball, but you're going to focus on basketball because the basketball team is really good again, and so it's going to get busy. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. This is going to make me sound like a terrible person, and you're going to hate me for this, so please don't fire me. I really only pay attention to baseball once conference season rolls around. I'm all in on basketball until conference season rolls around for baseball. But when conference starts in baseball, I religiously watch. I do. I watch the midweek games. I watch weekend games, series, all that sort of stuff. But no, until conference play, it's all basketball for me.
I mean, I'm not going to judge you for that. I think that a lot of people are that way. Like who wants to watch Arkansas State or Arkansas play Southeast Louisiana State Technical Community College on a Tuesday night? Like I have to do it because it's my job, but I also want to do it because I enjoy baseball. So like but I understand from your perspective. I think there's a lot of people out there like you, so it's okay. Yeah, go to HawgBeat.com. A lot of coverage over there. I posted a thread this week asking our subscribers, like, hey, what can we do more of? What can we do less of? How you feel? We got a lot of the site is the best it's been in years. And so you need to get over there. You need to subscribe. We're going to have some big time changes coming soon. We're very excited for that. And you're going to want to be subscribed for that as well. So HawgBeat.com, HawgBeat.com. All right. Thank you for listening to the Hardwood Hawgs Podcast.